Today we have with us Sören Haestrup, who is a Danish entrepreneur. He's from the financial community. He was back at the start of Saxo Bank, and he's gone on to do a few other things. And what we're going to talk about today is a platform, his latest solution for the financial markets. And this is a very interesting discussion about this platform, Coherra. So with that, we're going to introduce Sören, and we'll talk more about it. Thank you. Hi, Sören.
Hi, Chris. Thank you very much for having me. So yeah, I really appreciate that you reached out and gave me the opportunity to present our latest venture, even though it's not early stage any longer. We've been operating now for 4.5 years. Then, yeah, we are really focusing on a new problem that we discovered in the financial industry. We have been part of the transaction industry for many years. As you pointed out, I was early in Saxo Bank, building a global trading platform when it was just a very small Danish brokerage company, only servicing, I think 90% was Danish customers. And later I've been working in the asset management industry, running a hedge fund for 15 years. And what we discovered was the technology now solved everything related to the transaction, everything related to compliance to some extent, and to risk measurements, to optimizing of trading with quant models. But what hadn't changed at all was distribution. It was still analog. It was still something we in the asset management industry would do, to go and have physical meetings in Montreal one day and Washington another, Tokyo on a third one. And basically, yeah, operating with our laptop and being able to do any transaction anywhere safely, but still had to travel to make simple meetings. So we saw that what really was needed was for information to travel, and for it to be scalable, and for it to be repeatable. And what you could maybe do is that you can have multiple people involved from different destinations. So how do you solve distribution? That's really to make communication smarter. So we started about 5.5 years ago to build Coherra, which was a product we needed ourselves, simply to become more efficient in our distribution as an asset manager. And both me, my co-founders have careers before in the industry. And when we see a problem that really ignores, we kind of bite ourselves into it and stick to it. So I'm glad that I will have the opportunity to also discuss this today with you.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get into the discussion, and thank you very much, Sören.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you also for inviting me up to Stockholm to speak to your community. I am glad that we could agree that it would probably make better sense that we did this virtually, because what Coherra is building is really virtual relationship between investors and asset managers. So I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to still sit here in the comfort of my own home, and you sit in Stockholm, and we can really get that reach that we are set to create. So yeah. So with that said, I'm glad that I can introduce Coherra. Coherra is a Danish fintech media tech company. We are set in this world to help distribution of asset management services. We have a background, our team has a background in capital market, has been working as entrepreneurs and pioneers in that space for more than 2.5 decades. We were very young at that time when we were starting up in a small company that today is Saxo Bank. I think we were 16 people at that time. Wanted to solve, I would say, democratize access to trading financial instruments. We have a career, both Ole, my CTO, is an engineer, and myself as an economist. within the financial space. But what we really realized after making all these platforms for making transaction was that there was a big need for information, for investors to get access to qualified information instead of searching on YouTube, where there can be every kind of content provider available there. And the real voices on experts weren't really comfortable operating on those platforms, so they mostly didn't. So when we started Coherra and said we're going to build a YouTube for finance, it was really not to compare ourselves to YouTube. It was really to make what YouTube doesn't deliver, which is access to compliant information and directly to investor audiences, and build these virtual relationships so investors can get access to the information in a format that is different from what we historically did, was to send out very long reports, and less and less people were reading it. I'm guilty of it myself. I was an asset manager for 15 years after leaving Saxo Bank, and was spending an enormous amount of time writing a long report every month, and I could see the open rate was just deteriorating month by month. So attention spans are decreasing, and the preferred format today is video. So in the same way as I'm not just sending a long report up to you about what we do, we actually have a conversation. We can meet each other and we can actually engage in that way. So we are set to build the YouTube for finance, so to speak, a compliant platform where all financial actors, and only the ones regulated, can bring in content. So that would be, I would say, a quality or a trust building mechanism that we impose to the industry. And we are not there just to become another media. There's plenty of media platforms, and I don't really feel that many of them are solving what is needed. I think what is really working in other industries are platforms that are integratable, so that we can deliver content directly out to banks that need more information to give inspiration, motivation, education to their customers. And no institution today can create enough content. So some of our clients we did research with, and they measured they only reach 0.5% of their clients with relevant information. And I think that's a very common experience for many investors or clients, whether they are clients with a bank or a broker today, is that they don't necessarily get information about the topics that they are interested in. So what we can do is deliver a much bigger experience or better experience directly out to these platforms, because we aggregate this content. These videos are all collected with us and can be redistributed out to new platforms, whether that's called YouTube, but with a quality stamp from us, or that we have already identified who can have access to the information, so they are accessible on our side only, and maybe only for Scandinavians, maybe only for Americans, maybe only for institutional clients. These things are extremely important for our industry to solve. And this is what we are set to do. So we have been doing this for the past almost 5 years now. It takes time to build a marketplace, so to speak. And we are now servicing more than, I would say, 150 asset management firms, financial media, exchanges today. These are all pioneers in their own rights. These are economists that have started their own media platform, leaving the financial industry. These are banks and brokers, as I mentioned, that wants to serve their clients better. And these are asset managers who have a comprehensive amount of information and research that they actually would like to share. And what they would like in return is some data to understand how they do things better. What is actually working? What are people interested in? You and I, Chris, discussed just before this recording about Tesla. There was some news out yesterday about Tesla. So some people are really interested in Tesla, and we want to make quality information or research available for those who are interested in Tesla. And for those who are interested in gold, well, we have a webinar next week with a Swedish asset manager who has done a tremendous job, AUAG Funder. That's available for our community and investors who are engaging on our platforms. So we strongly believe that if we can serve this client, not as a media, as a single point of entry for information, but we can distribute it out to other platforms where investors are already present, then we create value for both those platforms, and we create value for the investors who are searching for the information. So yeah, that's really what we are set to do and what we are still building on. And we are having a fun time doing it, and really see the market adoption is coming fast. Obviously, not many years after we started, COVID hit the world, and everybody had to isolate and stay home, and nobody could have physical meetings anymore. Conferences were closed. So there was a big adoption to our services and way of communicating at that time. Now, market has opened up again, or at least the world has opened up again for traveling, and we are coming slowly back to normality, but people are going also back to how they used to operate. And we believe that with the arrival of, I would say, fairly shock in the financial system last year, we will find a hybrid model where people are really going to look at how they can operate more efficiently, how they can reach bigger audiences with less means, how they can be better to the environment, and probably be more scalable in how they act today. Because this recording that you and I are doing right now could be seen by 100 people tomorrow. That's 100x from if we were doing a physical meeting, or it can be seen over the next month by maybe 1,000 or 10,000 without us doing an additional effort. So it will create value for people to understand what it is we do, where the world is going, how the media sector is changing. And that's really what we are determined to do. And that's what we build for the financial ecosystem. So we really service everybody who is involved in that. That's the fund administrator, the fund managers, the banks, the brokers, the media, who are also in an enormous transition right now. So we have onboarded both NASDAQ as exchanges that are starting to build content, and connecting them with Bloomberg, who are operating on new ways to communicate more digitally. Flow TV is not really a growing business any longer, but how they can now operate on platforms that they don't control any longer is staggering. And then you can see some incredible returns on that. In the Middle East alone, one of our clients has reached 30 million followers, and they are a television station. You don't get followers from producing Flow TV. You do that by distributing digitally and getting out across platforms where the audience are already engaging, whether that's on applications for banks, or it's on YouTube, or it's on Twitter, or it's on LinkedIn. If you make your content available, you will also grow an audience, and probably someone that is very loyal to you as a brand. Otherwise, they can just leave, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is really kind of the perfect storm of conditions. You have people who want a product, and you have people who are producing a product, and then you've had the right conditions where people are kind of locked up indoors, and so they needed to get the information. And what better way to get it than a platform which is tailor-made for what they want? So I would agree with you there. And but that's so okay. I'm looking at the slide. 111 billion. That's a great number. And certainly when you say there's 30 million subscribers in the Middle East, So right now, when you said 150 different asset managers, is that a global or is that primarily European? What's the demographics there?
Yeah, so let me just first put the numbers right. I mean that the market for distribution is 111 billion. This is what the financial industry is spending on distribution on fund products. The 30 million followers is not Coherra's followers. This is a client of ours. It's Bloomberg, Ashak, they're called. They started only 2 years ago. So this is not our following, but obviously they also distribute their content through us. It's just really to show, or it was just to mention the possibilities if you work outside silos, outside your own platform, but you come out and reach with a bigger reach. So regarding our adoption, yeah, so the 150 clients or 110 asset management firms, that's global. And we're really pleased that we have been able to build that up organically. So we are engineers in the sense that we like to build robust systems that we know can actually handle also big amount of traffic. So we started only with 10 and allowing 10 clients to come in. The first one was Nomura Research Institute in Japan. Out of nowhere, we were 3 months old and I had to start traveling back and forth and do translation into Japanese in every piece of code we made. So that's an engineering company. That was not even a financial institution. But gradually we started to build up relations with the ecosystem, or let's say the financial institutions that we already knew from our career. And the different markets opened up. I mean, in Japan, they have 6,000 funds alone in one organization. So today we have 100 in the entire world. So there's quite a lot to grow with. I think there's about 2,000 funds in Scandinavia alone. So there's plenty to address there, but it's a global audience and it ranges from Brazil to Scandinavia and to Japan and the DACH region. And it covers all segments. So we have, crypto funds and we have mutual funds. We have small asset managers who are just starting up to Templeton with $4 trillion under management, Invesco, $3 trillion. I mean, the numbers are staggering when you look into these client bases. So we believe that we can really service the industry in a wide range. We just had a Swedish venture fund signing up today. So yeah, I think I know the reasons, but Sweden and the US is actually the market that we have performed very, very well in.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's one of the fun things about Sweden is that although it's part of Europe, it's kind of almost exotic because getting up to Stockholm takes a little bit of travel. I mean, we don't have exactly the same setup that you have down in Copenhagen where everybody can just kind of hop in and hop out. So
absolutely, but I think there's some other differences. I don't think there's any other European country with that many people that owns equities. So if you just take Denmark and Sweden that are so close to each other, Denmark is a bond country. Historically, people invested in bonds. Sweden has been about equities forever.
Yep. We've understood the value of the return on equities versus value of return on bonds.
Yeah, so you're saying they're smarter in Sweden. Okay, I get it, but
well, I live here, so I tend to favor it.
But it's interesting, right? And you see that I think there's about 50 platforms where you can buy funds in Sweden, and I think on a good day I can calculate 2 in Denmark. So obviously there's a different engagement with information also about companies than in Sweden than we have in Denmark, and the US it's the same, right? So these are markets that are operating much more progressively and also coming in early with new products. So that's, I mean, we have, some very good pioneering stories. I mean, I think you're well aware of both AUAG Funder, a great client of ours that was one of the first ones that signed up. It was one man that had a vision about providing access to precious metals, and particularly gold and silver, and has built a really, really strong brand and a really, really strong following with more than 30,000 clients in Sweden. And obviously you have Tin Funder that started a couple of years before that. You know, they reached 120,000 investors in Sweden alone and raised $1.5 billion, amazingly, without doing any meetings.
Yeah.
So you can actually build a very, very strong foundation and not rely on third-party distribution that a bank or an agent, intermediaries should sell your product. You can do that yourself if you actually deliver the value to that investor base that you would like to approach.
Yeah, no, Tin Funder is that's a great story when you talk about innovation. You know, that team had been over at Swedbank and run the technology fund. They left Swedbank. They started up Tin Funder. And now they've been working with Avanza, which is an internet online bank. And so exactly like you said, they don't have to do the meetings. You know, all they have to do is perform. And so the clients are buying their fund, and which is remarkable because, you know, Avanza can only sell Avanza funds.
I think is that you can't only perform, because if you're only performing, so to speak, you will never be the best performer. But if you can be transparent about what it is that you do, and you put people aligning them with your mission so they know what they actually invested in. And you can do that by podcast, you can do it newsletters, you can do it on video. And they have been very, very good at doing that. If you look at to the US, one of the biggest ETF issuers is now ARK Invest. They started in 2017 or so with $100 million. They raised to 50 billion in AUM. The last 2 years, they had a drop in share value of 75%, and they still raised another $1 billion because they are really, really good at explaining what they are investing in, why they are investing in, what they expect of this in the future, and acknowledging from the beginning that there will be headwinds as well. There's no magic ball to this. So when you are investing, there will be times where you're not the best performing sector. And if you align your interest and your methodology with the investors, that needs to be explained and repeated over and over again. Otherwise, you don't have a 75% drawdown and raise $1 billion the same year. It's unheard of.
No, it's true. You need to have that relationship with the investor, and that's the key. So, is there anything else you can show us? Maybe kind of illustrating that, or another slide, or is there?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Yeah, I have a few slides. I mean, this is some of the names we discussed. That you wouldn't see be looking at public stages before. So you have ARK Invest, Kathy Woods. You have Mark Andreessen, Venture Capital. They built an entire media station to control the narrative. You have Andreas Steno Larsen, who was the chief economist in Nordea and has now created his own platform for making research and make that accessible for retail investors, for professional investors. And you can buy it for $29 a month, and you can buy it for, I'm sure, $20,000 compared to what it is that you are, who you're distributing to. So these are all content creators, so to speak, today. Even the Norwegian oil fund and the CEO, Nikolai Tangen, is producing content today. It's not like they are raising capital for anything, but they have a fiduciary responsibility to tell the entire Norwegian population what they are really investing in and how they do it. So they have their own podcast. tin funder we already covered, and we have a macro elf in the middle and on the lower slide, chief economist and working in fixed income on in ING, has done the same, reaching 400,000 investors every week with his research. Things that are unheard of, even if you have them as client inside a bank, you don't get those numbers. So these are really pioneers that are showing that you can, as a one-man band or leading an enormous organization, you still benefit from producing content and reaching out to investors, whether they are future investors or existing investors. It's the same communication you're doing. So you can really leverage on it, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's an entire ecosystem that is not just the asset managers. There's the investors, you know, they need quality access to information. There's the banks and brokers that need to make sure that they provide diligent information and they have enough of it. As I think I mentioned, one of the research study we did was a bank that measured they only reached 0.5% of their customers with relevant information. It's not like you just do 200x on your research team and have more economists. That's impossible. That wouldn't be working financially, at least. So what do? You don't even know what they are really interested in. You can now get access to a lot more information. Maybe it's the language, maybe it's the topic, maybe it's the time of day that you release it. All this is data that you can get access to if you operate on open platforms. And the media channels, as I mentioned, are working differently. There's new ones coming up, getting millions of followers very, very fast, because they identify who the ideal target group is and focus on producing value for them, not for everybody, not a Google experiment where they say we build for everybody or we build for none. So they just target in on a very specific audience, whether that based on language, interest, or the format, whether it's video or it's podcast. It's all options are open here. And that now the exchanges, I mean, they have been very, very silent. They have never wanted to really be advocate for any of the companies that are listed on the exchanges. They have been really servicing just as a digital operator, a gateway, but they also face competition now because transactions are suddenly available everywhere, which is the core thesis of Coherra, is that in the future, transactions are going to be available everywhere. Transaction costs are going to be reduced significantly. When I started in the business, the spread in dollar against German mark was 50 basis points. By building a platform, we could use that to reduce it to 5, and within a few years, from 50 to 5 to 1 to 0.01. Today, it's basically free to trade foreign exchange. Even doing transactions on some platforms for equities are free. So you need to generate revenue somewhere. And you can do that by giving access to insights, by giving access to information on what's the availability. And that's our core thesis. So this is really, I would say, four verticals that are changing at the same time. And we started building for one, and we have slowly added new ones to it. So in 2022, we included 3 new verticals to service and have tested and tried them with some great results, fortunately, and most importantly, with some really, really strong pioneer thinking organizations. And some of them came much earlier than we thought, and some of them with much more, I would say, support and insistence on winning certain markets. So that's been really interesting, and obviously this is where we have come from and where we are going. We are a venture company. We are backed by investors from the venture sector, predominantly from media and finance, both angel investors, institutional investors, venture companies, and also in dialogue with corporate venture companies. But we have also insisted on being independent. I mean, it makes no sense if SEB, Saxo Bank, someone else owns 20% of us, and we would know that we would suddenly not be considered independent. So as such, we need to make sure that this is something that we control, and there's no one else that has an influence on the content being distributed than the content creators and the platforms we engage with.
Yeah. So what are the biggest hurdles that you see?
Well, I mean, for us or for the industry, it's
For yourselves. I mean,
for ourselves. I mean, building a marketplace is hard. It just takes time, and fortunately, we are pretty stubborn breed. And when we built up Saxo Bank technology stack at that time, and not me, because I was working on the trading floor, but Ole, who was sitting in the IT department as the first one that was hired there, he didn't know anything about the financial industry. He came from building software to the concrete factory businesses. And so it was a collaboration on people from the trading floor and people with the engineering background. And it took time. I mean, we thought this would be done in 2 years. 4 years later, and multiple collaborations, corporate ventures. It took time, and it still takes time. So we are stubborn. Fortunately, I'm not a patient personality, but I'm stubborn. So it's really about getting the adoption and getting the quality of the service to the level that you can scale from. So that's the challenges, and the challenges. Next challenge is to make sure that when you have a robust foundation, that you build barriers. I would say you increase the barriers of entry, so competition will have a harder time to come in. Because when you build an open platform and technology as we have, we integrate with others, so we can scale quite fast. But it will be the services and the intelligence we can collect that will make it unique in order for us to become not only an infrastructure, but a long-term infrastructure partner for the industry. Yeah, some of it takes time, some of it require capital. We always have to prioritize. What do you hire first? Is that the technician, is the sales organization? I mean, you don't want to have a lot of sales and for a bad product, and you don't want to have a brilliant product with no sales. So these are some of the hurdles that we struggle with, I would say, every day, or decisions we have to take every day. But we really enjoy doing it, and as we grow, we also see that we can open up new markets, and we can open up new production lines. This year alone, we will start multiple collaborations in various countries and various languages, where we will start producing content because we can do it better and faster and cheaper. We know what people are interested in, or at least these communities that we can reach, both through our platform, but also the platforms that we service. So we can start producing content that is dedicated to that audience. And this is just that would be an entire new part of the organization that we will build upon. And sometimes you can buy that content and you can scale much faster. Like a company that was also started here in Copenhagen called Moonbug. They did, just before COVID hit, they did the same for children channels on YouTube. So they bought access to this content, they bundle it. And I mean, in 3 years, they made a $3 billion exit. So things can be done with content. Sometimes it requires time and production, other times it requires capital in order to scale faster. So these are always decisions you have to take depending on what capital is available and how fast the market is actually adopting. And then you have competitors, you have other macro forces that will have an impact. So it's it's a journey, and it's an exciting one.
It's and so then the majority of the everybody's working in Copenhagen, or are you spread out across the world? Do you have a team sitting in India who are doing the code, or how does it work for you guys?
Yeah, these things are changing all the time as well. I mean, the core team is based in Copenhagen. So as with the core team is the business development, which is led by myself. And the tech stack is led by our CTO, Ole. He's also based in Copenhagen, but his team is distributed all over. It's not, for him, it's about getting access to the right people. And whether they are in Kazakhstan, or they are in India, or they are in Copenhagen, or they are in Stockholm, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, they have, I mean, he worked in 2 teams. After Saxo Bank, he also built another capital market platform called CFH Market that they had a successful exit on 8 years later. And he can lead a team of 1, and he can lead a team of 400. So for the technology, this is not important. Business development, it's very much the same. And it's led by myself. We have to service Scandinavia here in Copenhagen, to service Latin America out of Madrid, to service the UK market out of London, and to service the US market out of New York. So we don't need big teams anywhere for business development. For product ownerships and these type, we need them sometimes closer. Finance is the same. I mean, you have access to bank accounts everywhere, right? You have access to client onboarding processes, legal documents, all these things are all available no matter where they are. So for us, it's about getting quality people who are expert within their domain and attach them to our organization. Obviously, they need to feel comfortable with being in a startup, so to speak, rather than coming from Google or Microsoft. I mean, they have a different cantina than us for sure. But if you're driven about being an entrepreneur and actually building products, then it's aligned with our interest. This is where we thrive. So it's a distributed team, to answer you, and I think it will continue to be. And we are very comfortable with that. I mean, we have always done that. When I started my own hedge fund, I was based in Copenhagen. The fund was based in administration in Bermuda, later moved it to Switzerland. The first hire was in London. The second one was in New York. Fortunately, a Swedish entrepreneur and a Danish had created Skype, so we could, for free, communicate basically all day. And we didn't need to be sitting in the same offices. So
no,
technology makes these things possible.
Yeah, that's the advantage. So what are the next steps? What's coming up next on the calendar for you?
Yeah. So next steps are, I mean, right now we do a capital raise. We include a number of new VC.
How would people get information on that? Do you have a slide with that?
Not really, because we have actually decided to make this digital as well. I mean, historically, I've been meeting with investors. We have investors in Germany. We have investors in Copenhagen. We have investors basically all over the world.
Right.
And it was very natural for me to meet them either at their address, at our address at some time, and have some long conversations. And obviously, or for many, we remember the good ones, but the number of conversations we had is simply just not a scalable process.
No.
So what we decided to do this time was to say, we control the process and we will be available and release information gradually. So if they reach out to us, they can have access to a certain amount of information. And a week later, they can have access to more information. And a week later, even more information. And on the 23rd of February, we have a live session. So I will be interviewed with by a journalist we are working with as well. And we will share a lot of the insights and learnings that we have made from being in the industry. And of course, the investment opportunity there is shared as well. So they can reach out to us and they can digitally get access to information. And they can also meet with us if they come and see us after the 23rd. I will also have a couple of trips that I will do with existing investors. So that also includes Stockholm, actually. So okay. Stockholm, Milan, London, one day each, but that's really it. So we're raising capital to scale and to continue building. So we are a building company. So it's about having many channels and many offsets. And of course, increase our customer base. So now we introduced these 3 new verticals end of last year and first quarter of this year. So this is something that we will put a lot of attention to. And the asset management part of it is really well established and growing every single day. And that's something that's our core product, and everything else comes from that. And everybody gains from us putting in new verticals because it just drives more value, more traffic, more data. All these things are really valuable for operators. So yeah, so that's our focus here. We're raising capital here in February. It's going to have a soft close in 1st of March and a full close end of March.
Okay. So
we're just raising $2 million for the first month and additional one in the second.
So there's still time to get in, and then so really the way to find out more information for people would be to go to Coherra's website.
They can go to Coherra's website. They can reach out to us. They can use social media channels. They can find me on LinkedIn. Our whole team are there, of course, and we can put them into the process. And yeah, you can also sign up on the Coherra link, the Coherra website, and also on our profile on LinkedIn to the webinar if anyone wants to hear more just about the industry, or asset managers who would like to see what we can offer to them and the insights that we have gathered, how we create communities for them. So yeah, they can communicate more efficiently and build trust with their investor audiences. I mean, these are really, really critical. For us as a software company, it's critical. For an asset manager, it's essential, I would say. So we want to take our own medicine and follow the same recipe rather than going to a lot of conferences and make a speech at innovation hubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's much better to meet at the IP address as opposed to the physical address. So
yeah, and you can be immediately available, and you can be immediately available for 20 people. And if next week I will be traveling, and if someone needs me, I can be available for wherever I will be. That's harder if I need to come and see someone, whether that's in Stockholm, Copenhagen, Madrid, or Milan. I mean, it's that would require expenses, planning, reorganization of your calendar. Yeah, the environmental footprint is there as well. Everybody was just lose in time, which is something that we can't really scale.
Yeah, I think the most important factor is you save the time between cab rides. You can just dial up and you're in a conference like this. You don't have to sit in a cab or walk to an office. You have the instantaneous access. And I think that's the real advantage.
Absolutely. And you can record it, right? It's repeatable.
Yep.
So this session and this discussion you and I had, maybe it's relevant for someone in 6 months.
Yeah.
Did Søren really deliver on what he talked about 6 months ago? Well, I will have to be accountable for this conversation. And I like that. I like also that our clients are accountable for what they are saying and what they are predicting. Everybody will make mistakes along the way, but own it and control your narrative. Make sure that you can explain and you have a platform where you can communicate that. Because if it's just on your own website, there is not a lot of traffic on many websites today.
No.
So you need to have that stage. You're not being invited on Bloomberg or CNBC on a daily basis, and they want you to comment on Tesla or on what's happening with the yield curve, not about what your vision is for building your organization, how you service your client, all that.
Yeah.
So that's the stage we build, right?
Exactly. Yep. No, I would agree with that. And then okay. Well, I mean, to me that sounds great. But is there anything else we should be aware of? Anything else we should be looking forward to, or can we just we can go to the Coherra? We can see the coming offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we can
sign
join
up
into different conferences
for the webinars. They will continue to be released, and
yep.
I mean, just next week, AUAG Funder is on our platform. So and they will tell about their market outlooks. They have 3 funds now. They started with 1 3 years ago. Now they have 3 funds. We have a hedge fund coming up. We will have a whole thematic month with energy. So different fund managers are commenting on the outlook on the energy market. We will have one with blockchain that are an adult conversation with crypto. That has been a tough year for that industry as well. And it's time that there's an adult conversation there. So we actually thought that would be a great opportunity, because there's still adoption in it. And there's still, if you take Jamie Dimon, he's still saying Bitcoin is a fraud, but blockchain is already being used inside JP Morgan, right, for transactions. So there might be a differentiating model there.
I've always been a proponent of blockchain. I don't, this idea of these cryptos, there's no asset behind it. And, so it's effectively fraud. It's my word against your word, and my delivering to you a product without an asset. But the blockchain is the way to secure the transaction, and that can be used for all transactions.
Yeah, and personal identity. There's a lot of use cases that would really change the way that people can secure their own personal data. These things are going to be critical for all technology to work in the future, because regulation is coming. This is something we learned from being in capital market. You can enter any corner of a market that is not regulated. Foreign exchange was not regulated in the 1990s in Denmark, but it became regulated. And so regulation is coming. It is also coming to the crypto industry, and it's coming into the media industry. There will be accountability for the information that you distribute. There's already a new case in the US against Facebook about misinformation. It's not something they produce, but they allow it there, and it can have dire consequences. There's a lot of fines being made in Europe to these big tech companies for misuse of data, etc. So regulation is coming, and it will also come to the crypto industry, and there will be winners and losers there. I sometimes viewed it myself as it's venture capital at with a questionable ownership, but there's a lot of value in that industry. And I'm sure that's going to continue to evolve, and it will come much faster, and possibly when you're not looking at it. So that's going to be a theme as well. Obviously, ESG is a good conversation as well. There's both at a retail level, but at an institutional level as well. Just, what are the standards for rating ESG? It hasn't really, they are at least different in the US to Europe. What is greenwashing? There's a lot of things that are to be debated, and the actors should have a platform to do it, and we will be happy to give that platform to them and make it distributable to many other platforms. So yeah, there's a lot of things coming this year, and we're looking forward to this journey and start to ramp it up.
Certainly a growth market for your platform. This is that's the advantage, and you know, whenever the governments can figure out they can make money, they'll implement regulation. So that's that's a guarantee.
They will make investor protection, and they will do, you know, good things and bad things, but you know, accountability is not a bad thing. And that's been fundamental for and why we put the bar and the criteria for who could upload information to people who are regulated. Even if you come in and you by some way you know, accidentally have a Madoff situation, well, there was accountability involved in that, even though he chose not to be regulated at that time with his investor offerings, but he did become regulated, and basically all the actors who didn't live up to their responsibility, which was the accounting firms, the banks, the regulators, I mean, all the funds has been returned because it was in a regulated environment. So there will be bad actors everywhere. It's just about, is there accountability involved in it? And I think that's something that we can't really have many good arguments against, particularly not with how the technology revolution is happening right now with deep fake videos. And there was a situation actually just yesterday, and one of my new colleagues in London sent me an email saying there's someone interpreting to be you. And it was an email with whatever is funny name, let's just say Sören H, and then @gmail.ru, and it was signed with my name to one of my employees, and it was basically saying something like, I'm going into a meeting, so you can't call me, respond to me in email or something like that. So there's so much happening and so many fake profiles that have intentions that are beyond us. So how do we filter for that? Where are the places where we can actually feel we get solid information? So if I can have information from Erik Penserbank, who is also a valued client of ours, and they're really pioneer in doing content as well. If I can have that from a regulated entity and put it out on another bank's platform or a application that has a lot of users of investors who search for information, then there's accountability through the entire system. If they choose to put all kind of and mix it up with all kind of other content that is not relevant, it's their choice, but then it doesn't have our approval on it, right? And I think that's something that's value you can give for the investors, and then they deserve that. But it's also something you really need as an operator, because otherwise you can't really put more information in if you're always afraid that someone says something wrong.
Well, no, that's a good point.
It's a complex world we are entering, but if you kind of accept that regulation is not there to kill us, but to protect us against bad actors, then you can work with it. If you like it or not, that's not the point. It's there, right?
Yeah, well, you'll certainly fit in well with the EU. They like to regulate, and you know, they want to have the rules, so the platform should do well with that. And
I feel comfortable that it will go with global trends. I think that's the direction. I mean, I've been running my hedge fund in Switzerland for many years, and it's the same thing there. You know, you could have self-regulatory bodies, they don't exist any longer. simply just for investor protection. So, and in the US, it's the same, right? It's
Well,
always
I mean, we used to favor less regulation. You know, in the world that I grew up in, it was less regulated and it was easier to start business. But now it's more regulated. So it's
yeah, and that's so if we make a chart of regulation, it's not often that it breaks and take a big hit down, right? So if we kind of expect that to continue for whatever reason it is, then it's not a bad idea to put that into your business plan or feature roadmap at some point. I mean, coming back to crypto, the discussion of that was an unregulated industry. Now they're all shouting for regulation because it might be the savior of that industry. So you don't need necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, the crypto discussion is one we could get into on another time. I mean, it's to be honest, unless you have an asset backing a product, I cannot understand. I mean, the cryptos are effectively fiat currencies, and they want to argue that they're a transition away from fiat currency. So, I mean,
These things are coming as well. Again,
I mean, yeah, but I mean, crypto is effectively fraud. There's no asset behind it, and you know, it's just my word against your word. And you know, it's like Bill Gates said. You know, I'm trying to sell to you at a price that's higher than the price I bought it for. So it's
I agree to you on some of the crypto coins, and others are not. And I will send you a new client we got in this week, which is really fascinating. It's coming from the asset management industry, the background, and it's in carbon allowances. It's tokenized carbon allowances. So you're actually trading carbon allowances. It's just, how do you do it? Do you do it through a future or an ETF, or is it tokenized? I'll share it with you. It's fascinating and it's regulated, and it's coming. So let's see I would love to hear your input to it. But
sure. I mean, I'm happy to tell you. I mean, don't worry. I mean, even where you have it regulated, there's plenty of fraud. You know, we've seen that over the years. I mean, just look at the Enron. You know, and I could look at WorldCom. Look at you know, Tyco. You know, look at the Japanese market. Every year they've got a new fraud.
You don't need crypto for fraud, that's for sure.
No, I mean, you know, even when you have regulation, I mean, Bernie Madoff, he was the head of an exchange, and then he was able to effectively navigate and fraud everybody. So, yeah, I'd love to take a look at it, and I'll give you my feedback. But
yeah, I would love to hear it. I mean, I was watching a video about it for an hour, and I was fascinated by it, and I had a conversation with them, and yeah, they signed up as client as well. So it's what's interesting for us as you can say platform operator is that it constantly evolves, that there's new people joining, that, as I mentioned, we just had venture capital. I mean, regulation is coming there as well. I mean, and why not? They are effectively asset managers. They are pooling assets. They have a fiduciary responsibility to it. They're charging a fee. So how do they communicate? What is their process? So, I mean, and they do very well, many of them, and their fee structure is also being challenged. And when your fee structure is being challenged, you need to be more effective. So Sequoia has just changed their fee structure from, let's say, 3% of raised capital to 3% or 2%, whatever it is, of deployed capital. So what does the rest of the industry, this is the pinnacle of VC, do they need to follow? So that means that your fee structure might be halved or something like that. So what do you do with your cost? You need to be more efficient with that as well. So we're just happy to see, as long as it's a safe environment for people to engage with that content, and that means that it's that regulation has a supervision of it. But we'll just embrace innovation, and pioneers in any way. That's something we welcome. And we see that inside big organizations, it takes them much longer. They have extensive diligence that they need to go through and sign-off processes. But while other smaller ones, like you mentioned, TIN Funder and AUAG Funder, they can act very, very quickly. You know, it's one man or three men or two men and two women or three women that decided, and here off to the races, right? It's just, you can use the platforms that are available and where you can build your audiences or build your virtual relationships, as we like to call them.
Okay. Well, you know, we're moving forward and looking forward to the innovation. And thanks to your platform, hopefully we're gonna see a lot more of it.
Yeah, we would love to welcome you there as well. And I mean, your users and clients and stakeholders are all welcome to sign up, and they can get free access to the content.
That'll be
The
fantastic.
live sessions, to the recorded sessions, and yeah, they can go back in history and see what did they say 6 months ago.
Yep. Virtual library. That's fantastic.
Virtual library. Yeah.
Yeah. That's well, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Sören. It's been a very interesting conversation, and I look forward to the carbon that you're going to send me. And
Carbon
certainly,
allowances. Yeah, I will, absolutely. And yeah, join us next week with AUAG Funder.
yeah, I think that's definitely worthwhile. And
on the 16th.
The 16th, and it makes the case for assets, which I like. So that's good.
That's real physical assets.
Yeah.
Even in that, there was a big, I don't know if you saw that, there was a big article yesterday with one of the biggest trading companies within metals. They figured out that all the
nickel fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even there's a physical asset, it might not be the physical asset you actually bought that you get delivered. So there's risk everywhere, but as long as there's accountability, it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Well, you can sleep a little better at night anyway. But okay. Well, thank you very much, Sören. You know, it's been a fantastic discussion, and everybody should go to Coherra and sign up for the webinars and to take a look at the information that's available, and to be able to stay abreast.
Yeah, and reach out to us on LinkedIn if any questions, or you can also see there the upcoming live sessions that are scheduled.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sören. Thank you.